You're listening to the Secure Dad Podcast. Discover ways to secure your home, protect your family, and embrace your role as a protector parent. Welcome, friend. I'm Andy Murphy, the creator of the Secure Dad. This podcast serves to help families become proactive in their safety. The information I share on this podcast is for general information purposes only. My goal is to empower you to make safer decisions for yourself and your family, because our safety is our own responsibility. Today we're talking about the very hot topic of voice cloning used in scams and virtual kidnappings. I'm going to share what I really think is going on and what we need to do for the future. All of that and more ahead on the Secure Dad Podcast. I Googled myself a few years back and I was shocked at the personal information I found about me. That information could have been used for scams, or even for someone to find and hurt me, and I found that unsettling. For a long time, I didn't know there was anything that you could do about it, until I found Delete Me. I've been a happy customer of theirs since 2018, and I'm proud to be partnered with them today. If you want to get your personal information removed from search sites, go to joindeleteme.com/dad. They're offering 20% off their privacy plans to everyone listening with the code DAD. And in complete transparency, on my last report, Delete Me found my information on 14 different sites and removed it all. It was 76 different pieces of my personal information that they found and deleted. They continuously scan these sketchy people search sites for me so that I don't have to do a thing. See why I find Delete Me essential to my privacy at joindeleteme.com/dad and use the promo code DAD to get 20% off today. Unless you've been living under a rock, or have healthy social media habits, then you've heard all about these recent stories about voice cloning and virtual kidnapping scams. The new hot topic in the news is how scammers are using AI voice technology to clone people's voices to scam them into thinking that a loved one has been kidnapped. So I'm going to tell you how this scam works, my take on it, and what you can do to combat this type of a problem, and I'll wrap it up with where I think this is going to go in the future. So the typical voice cloning, virtual kidnapping scam works like this so far. A parent will get a phone call from an unknown number. When they answer, they will think that they are hearing the voice of their child who is in danger. The child will speak briefly saying that they've been taken, and they're going to sound, understandably, scared to death. Then the kidnapper gets on the phone to demand a ransom and work out a payment method. This could be a digital exchange or a drop-off in a public place. When the money is exchanged, the child will be released. Now, the funny thing is about these scams in the news over the past 2 months is they're not working. Out of a handful of recent stories about these scams, the parents reach out to the kid and quickly discover that their child is safe. I don't know of a single case where an AI voice cloning virtual kidnapping scheme has actually resulted in a payment. When I research these stories, I can't find an article that says the name of the specific website or the software that was used to clone the voice, or that the police have caught the scammers and they know exactly how it was done. There's a lot of conjecture about what could have been used. In legal speak, that means there's no hard evidence that voice cloning is actually being used in virtual kidnapping scams. Let that sink in. But wait, you might say, the FTC has issued a warning about voice cloning scams, so that makes all of these stories real and accurate, right? Well, back in March, the FTC issued a consumer alert about voice cloning scams for fake family emergencies. They give you a great overview of how the scam works, but they don't offer any stats or any real cases of the technology being used. So there's a link to that alert, by the way, in the show notes if you want to go see it for yourself. So that's interesting. Now, there is a case from 2019 where a UK-based energy firm was spoofed into a supposed AI voice-generated scam that impersonated the company's CEO. In this case, an employee was duped into thinking that the CEO was calling and asking for a payment to a vendor. One payment was made before the company caught on and realized that there was a problem. But there's no recording of the AI voice, and we have to take the word of the human on the phone that it was indeed an AI cloned voice. And if you want to drill down into that 2019 story, it's only the belief that the CEO's voice was cloned. And now I will fully admit that this is a very hard case to make for law enforcement. If the victims aren't recording their phone calls, then the police only have the word of the person on the phone that it was a cloned voice. Plus, these phone scams are very hard to track down, making it even harder for police to investigate. Okay, so what does this mean for us, Andy? Do I think that AI voice cloning has been used to perpetrate a crime before in human history? Yes, I do. Is AI voice cloning being used to virtually kidnap every child in the suburbs? No, I do not. What I think is happening here is that when parents are faced with a horrific scenario of a kidnapping, the voice they hear on the phone is cognitively close enough to make them believe that it's their child. We've heard this before from our friends Greg Williams and Brian Marin at Arcadia Cognerati. In fact, when I was discussing this with Gonzalo at Combat MF, he made the point to say that the amygdala gets hijacked and people believe that they are hearing their child's voice. And I think he's right. People become convinced that they are hearing their kid's voice, and you can't tell them otherwise. They truly believe it. And I'm going to have Gonzalo back on the show to talk about this exact thing when it comes to virtual kidnappings, so we are far from done talking about this. Listen, phone extortion and virtual kidnappings are not new. Criminals use open source intelligence to find the names of their targets' kids. Maybe they even follow the child on social media so they know what they're doing to kind of enhance the realism of the scam. Then, the scammers get someone who can generally mimic the panicked voice of a child who talks on the phone just long enough to make it seem real for the victim. That's what the scammers want to happen. That's their plan. Generally speaking, it's a lot easier to get a young woman accomplice in on the scam than it is to find audio clips of the target's kids, run them through AI, and then play them back in a real-time conversation that sounds natural. I want you to critically think here. What's more likely to happen to the average person? So for now, what do you do if you get one of these calls? Cloned AI voices aside, what you need to do is confirm the identity of the voice on the other end of the phone. What you can use is an old school family code word. Yes, the same code word that I've been asking you to have to identify a safe person to your child. In the past, these words were used when someone tried to pick up your child. The code word was some secret, simple word like pancakes. When this person showed up, the child was to ask for the code word, and if it was given, the child knew that the parents had sent them. My parents used this once to send somebody to pick me up from school, so I can attest that this works. When faced with such a phone call, ask the child what the code word is. If they don't know, then you hang up. You confirm the location of your child, and then you call the police to report the scam. Now, if you fail to set up a code word in time, you can always ask what the nickname for the dog is. We all know dogs have their real name and like 15 different nicknames. Get one of those nicknames from the voice on the other end. In essence, you're asking for information that only they would know and that would not be easily found on social media. Now, as we wrap up, I do think that AI voice cloning scams will increase. As law enforcement has been warning for a while, the technology is getting easier and more readily available. So you do need to be aware of this problem. Just don't believe all of the hype. Also know that if you're a podcaster, social media influencer, or YouTuber, then there are great examples of your voice on the internet just waiting to be cloned. So if you get a phone call from me, you can rest assured that it's a scam, because I don't like to talk on the phone. That's all that we have for the Secure Dad podcast for today. Thank you, friend, for listening. I will be doing more on virtual kidnappings in the future and what we can do to manage that crisis if it happens to us. Take control of your personal data with help from Delete Me. Take 20% off your privacy plan with code DAD at checkout. That's DAD. For more, visit joindeleteme.com/dad. If you'd like to know more about the Secure Dad, join me on Instagram and Twitter. My username for both platforms is TheSecureDad. And of course, my site is available to you 24/7 at thesecuredad.com. I'm Andy Murphy, reminding you that our safety is our own responsibility.